Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. Oh, da doo-dah day.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Last Man Standing. Uh, while the intro was playing, the dog figured out how to force the office door open, was in here, determined that she was going to be my co-host for tonight. That thankfully I was able to dissuade her of this notion because basically she'd probably out-talk me, which very few people are allowed to do, and I'll introduce two of those right now, Rich and Bill. And oh, these things, they happen.
I thought it would be a rather interesting conversation if you would have included her.
Yeah, well, if she didn't try and sing, it would be all right. You'd never tell when a dog howls are going to be copyrighted. I mean, well, we won't go there. There are certain wives. I mean, I'm not even going to hint at it. We're not going there. All right.
Well,
Facebook is now telling me to be ready to start the show. So,
thank God we're not live.
Well, it's the best version of Memorex I've been able to come up with. So, who knows? But we'll just make do with what we got till something better comes along. Now,
I just had to text Laura because I'm hearing yipping coming from the cornfield, which means Wile E. Coyote and his family didn't get enough for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Yeah, and thankfully I feed the kitties on the opposite side of my place, so I know they're savvy enough to stay away from them.
You just got to catch a burglar and feed them to the coyotes. Oh, and there's Joe. Howdy, howdy.
Hey, just wanted to pop in on your show. Say thank you again, Dan, for setting up stupid o'clock and, closing the show out when I had the emergency.
Well,
Bot alert.
Joe, I was glad to do it. I wish I had not screwed up the exact lineup of channels, but they do change from time to time. So
Yeah.
maybe one day you'll make a list to email out to your I hate to say co-hosts to the other people who have ops and go, hey,
Yeah.
this is how you set it up, or this is what you set it up to. Because how is pretty easy, but these are the destinations. I probably didn't even set my own up that well, so who knows? But it doesn't matter.
Yeah. All
The
right.
Russian bots were back. I've already kicked out Russian bots. I feel so accomplished.
I thought I did it.
We might have got them at the same time. They're gone.
Yep.
So, Dos Vadonia, Draft Dodger.
All right. Well, I'm gonna run, but thank you so much, and I guess I'll see all you guys Saturday night.
Yep.
God
We'll be
willing.
there. And thank you for the opportunity to be in the show and have my own. That's
Dan, you allow that guy in here?
well, yeah. I mean, he's all right. His wife's real cute.
All right. I
She's
guess
all right
you
for her
say
first
so.
wife.
My logic is my own. I defy you to understand it.
And that's when you saw the repair sailing across the room.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Good night,
She
Joe.
said you would be armed
night,
and
Joe
facing
Dog.
her. She didn't say she wouldn't toss it to you in the middle of the stream.
Well, that's true.
Lord,
Okay.
it just don't want you to leave. You click Leave Studio. Then it has a pop-up. Leave Studio. You click it. And then Google says, leave site. Changes may not be saved. You know what? Fuck you, Google. I'm out of here.
And he said all that without moving his lips once. I mean, he is such a talented individual.
That's one way of putting it.
Oh. Well,
He's almost as good as my friend Bob Smith it was on Soap.
He used up all my F-bombs for tonight. Now I'm
Yeah.
no. We shall persevere.
You can use up your ones for tomorrow night tonight.
What am I going to do sitting there in the green room not saying anything then?
Drink.
We'll just keep feeding you one light.
Point taken.
We have to tell you to drink? Come on.
Hmm.
We'll just keep
Hydrating,
feeding those
all
straight
right.
lines until the filter decides to deactivate. And
Let's hope it's a big filter.
And here I'm the G-rated person on here, and I've got to be the one to tell them what to do.
Well, that's the thing, Bill. Very few people get away with telling me what to do.
Okay.
A lot of people tell me where to get off, but not too many people can succeed in telling me what to do.
I just text Lindsay and let her tell you then.
Oh, you don't want to do that. The last thing you want is the little British lady in your shit. Oh, don't make me make Rich laugh so much he hurts.
I think Rich was hurting for a while now. Probably looks on his face last 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I could tell. I didn't want to say anything then, but
I heard every time he mentions that ice thing.
Oh.
That ice thing makes it a lot more bearable.
Speaking of that little British thing, what did you buy for Pete Best's birthday today for Lindsay?
I don't
Oh,
know.
crap. Oh.
I don't know what I bought. She did the shopping.
nice.
Hey, I'm in the same position as William Powell in the Thin Man movies. Is that what I bought you for Christmas? I have good
Yeah.
taste, don't I?
That's most married men.
And she says you have the most interesting friends.
Often, she does say exactly that.
As you're shooting the balloons off of the Christmas tree, laying on the couch with the little pop gun.
And I have often heard the line, "Are you packing?" And I just have to say, yes, dear, just putting away this liquor. Those are a
No, I think
wonderful
Pete
series of
Best
movies.
got a really good birthday present by finally getting some financial recognition for his part with the Fab Four.
Back in the early days, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a novella written for Aphelion that pretty much was from the point of view of Pete, but it seemed like one day he woke up and he was no longer dead.
Yeah.
It's like he shifted back in time and was experiencing all this stuff as if it were the first time, but it was all things that he was not part of, so that he actually never left the Beatles. And he got to experience all that stuff with them, but he had memories of what pitfalls they had yet to face after he had left the group. And it was a very nicely written story. It really was.
Wished it was real, but
It's just one of those things. Somebody did the research and had a very, very good imagination and was a very, very good writer, and turned out a nice story that you actually wished some publisher would pick up and put out on paper. So
that's the problem with fiction. It's just not real enough.
The truth
reality gets pretty fictional from time to time. Let me tell you.
Well, it gets lost in the mix. But now I did watch a BBC documentary that came out, I want to say mid or late 80s, and they were interviewing George Martin. And he said, I did not fire Pete Best, and I did not want Pete Best fired. I just wanted for the album to have somebody else play. And they, in turn, of course, Paul and the rest of them had said that, of course, they were the ones that made the decision to fire him. And it wasn't George and it wasn't Brian, anybody of that. But they also said, Paul or George, I think it was George, on a different interview, a different documentary where he was being interviewed, and he said they had already planned this way before George ever said anything as far as replacing him on the Please Please Me album. So, or with the Beatles or whatever. No, Please Please Me album, whatever. But, and I think that Martin was taking a lot of backlash from a lot of the diehard Liverpudlian Beatle fans from it. But
the trouble is, there's been so much water under that bridge that no matter what anybody says anymore, someone who should have been there and probably was there is still going to remember it differently. It's like everybody lives in their own little universe, and we each intersect with other people, but it doesn't mean that we're sharing the same reality. We've got our own reality, but sometimes they merge and sometimes they diverge. It's the same sort of thing that gives rise to the Mandela effect and lots of other things. But
if Donna makes a very obtuse comment within the next 30 seconds, and then come Saturday night, you and Rich and Joe and I and Carl and Carrie and anybody in the audience are asked, what did she say? We're all going to might kind of stay somewhat parallel, but we're all going to say something different enough that it might sound entirely different.
Yep, and that shows up in eyewitness accounts that police write down after something has happened. No two eyewitnesses remember the exact same circumstances the exact same way.
And 99% of it is wrong.
I did
we manufacture our own memories.
I did a short story contest in Aphelion one time about that. I said, okay, here is a 1,000 word story. This is my version of what happened. Anybody that wants to enter the contest, pick your own character or create your own character. Tell this same story from their point of view. And we'll see how the different interpretations come out. Worked out great. It worked out great. No two stories were exactly the same. No two stories had the same point of view. And in one of the stories, the main point of view that I wrote was only peripherally there. It was not even the main focus. They acknowledged that action took place, but it was more like a TV in a bar while two people were discussing something else.
Right. If I ask Donna, what color is the sky? And she tells me it's blue, but then you say it's not blue, but then you say it's a myriad of different things that the color spectrum is involving, I could tend to believe that. If I said, yeah, the sky's not blue, it's green, and the grass is blue.
I don't want to see green skies. Believe me.
Yeah.
It's not a color you want to see the sky turn.
Or red skies at morning. But anyway, yeah, there's you could kind of designate differences as far as someone who's trying to pull up something a little different that might be informative as opposed to somebody who's just being a jackass. Saying the sky is green, the grass is blue.
Carl used to teach a psychology class out at DAC here. It would only last just the one session, not session, but like just in the fall, and then there would be a different one in the spring. And we started out with I'd come in the room looking real nervous and find a seat back, kind of in the back, and fidget around. And then a friend of ours came in, and he was about the size of Carl, hair down to the middle of his back. I mean, the dude looked like a biker, full beard, angry look on his face, and he'd look around and then he'd spot me and go, I found you. You thought I wouldn't find you. And then he'd chase me out of the room. And then Carl would address the class and say, maybe we need to call security. But before we do, who remembers what they look like? We need to get a description. And out of 7 or 8 different classes, only one person ever got it right. But she had been trained to observe because she was a guard out at the prison.
Figured you were either going to say that or a policeman.
Same difference.
Pretty much. Yep.
That former military or someone who was bullied a lot.
Oh, yeah. Situational awareness is one of those things that it doesn't matter when the bullying stops or if you escape it. Once the habit is ingrained, you're aware of the movement of every single molecule in the room. And it can be one of those things where it's aggravating to try and turn it off.
Well,
Because
but
you never
it
know
can
when it's
save
going to
your
come
life.
in handy again. Yeah. There was one practical joke that folks tried to play on me. I was in a little electric tricycle, little stand-up thing that pulled loaded dollies of material around, and I pulled it up and I parked it and turned around and looked at some of the folks that I was working with, and I noticed the look on their face, and I stepped down off the cart and turned around real quick. Somebody was walking up behind me, fixing to goose me in the ribs. And they go, how did you know that was that's spooky? And I go, I can read your mind like a magazine. Turned around, walked off. Naturally, I couldn't read their mind like a magazine. I could read their facial expressions like a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Body languages. I highly recommend being able to read other people's body languages. And once you know that person well enough, you know exactly what not what they're thinking, but you can get an insight into their character and what they're about to do or not about to do or about to not say but thought. And this is a very useful skill for a writer. Now here I am stepping on tidbits and scribbles. Michaela's toes. Yeah.
Well, just wad it up, throw it away, and start over again, and you'll get it right.
Hey, people watching is a
it's a writer's thing.
Yeah. Well, not only that, it a lot of people do it that don't have the writing bug.
You have to do it if you're in law enforcement or the military because your life depends on it. There's something that came on the news the other night where they're training police how to respond to certain incidents, which was something that they've done all along, but now they're more high tech with it. And your life literally depends on it sometimes. And but like as the writer end of it, Conan Doyle was brilliant. Conan Doyle, because of his training, and the man most arguably was Sherlock Holmes, just a different name, and he could do everything that he wrote character.
I think he ascribed that to one of his teachers. Was it a Dr. Bill? One of Doyle's teachers.
Right. That sounds right.
I'm not sure, but if he was as astute as Holmes would be, he wouldn't have tried to pull the shit he did on Houdini.
Yeah.
True.
But
then again, Houdini's
he probably wouldn't have fallen for the whole spiritualism movement either.
Yeah.
That was taking things on face value instead of research.
As for being observant, nowadays I think it's behooves all of us to be a little more observant because our lives do depend on it, the way things are these days.
It works in traffic as well. Observing all the other cars around you and you get this. Suddenly, my common sense is tingling. Watch that guy in the red Ferrari. He's about to do something stupid. Across 6 lanes of traffic to the off ramp with no signal. Yeah. You can.
Well, around here, what they do is they end up driving so fast that they end up killing themselves by driving underneath the back end of a semi or a piece of farm equipment. And
Well,
it's
that happens too.
instant death.
Too.
Yeah.
You've also got the people out there to make a quick buck. So what they'll do is they'll jam it into reverse real quick at a light and back into you, so it looks like you rear-ended them. But that's where, dash cams come in handy nowadays.
I was just about to say.
Well, yep. And that law that if you're the one doing that, it doesn't apply anymore simply because of the cameras everywhere now. That's the one good thing about Big Brother. You'll find it, and that's unless it happens in a remote area where you're not going to have that. And of course, most vehicles are equipped with it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought, go ahead and run into the back of me. It'll be your fault or whatever. But if you're the one at fault, it will be found out.
Yeah. I think that's one reason why I get a clear space in traffic, because I've got all these lights and the 2 cameras and the CB radio antenna. I don't know whether they think I'm an undercover cop or if I'm just a paranoid that's recording everything in 360 degrees. But people tend to give me a little bit more room to maneuver in traffic nowadays. I'm grateful for that. They're mistaken, because there are no recorders hooked up to those cameras. It's just to help me eliminate the blind spot, and the one that's facing forward, if it hadn't been wide angle, I was going to use to try and clue me in. There was a deer standing in the middle of the road in the middle of the night, just from the infrared, but the camera was not what I thought it was going to be when I bought it. It turned out not to be as useful as what I had hoped. Looks damn good on the van, though.
Well, back in the day, you remember Hill's department store, Donna?
Vaguely.
Up where behind Red Lobster, and it was most recently a Big R, whatever. But I worked floor security for Hills, and it wasn't what I started out to work, but to get a cross-training raise, I cross-trained in that, and then they turned around and said, "Oh, we need you more as a floor walker than we do working in a department. So that'll learn you, darn you." And I spent full time doing that. Well, Hills did not have any cameras in that entire store. Everything was mirrored ceiling tiles or 2-way mirrors at the front of the store on the second floor office level, or the back of the store at the second floor layaway and upper stockroom level. But however, they had one of those half moon, I called them half a disco ball, hanging from the ceiling right above the 10 registers that we had up front, and there was a cord going down into it. So everybody thought there was a camera in there, and that was to prevent, theft from going on up at the registers. Well, there was nothing there. That cord went into nothing. But we were not, I knew that it was, but we were not allowed to tell anybody. We were not even allowed to tell the employees because of employee theft and that. But you would not believe how much that helped having nothing
yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
like your cameras that are not operable.
Well, it's
a lot of
operable. It just doesn't
places.
do what I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
A lot of places don't have real cameras these days. They just have phony ones that look really good, and yeah, people will behave themselves because they think there's a camera on them.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
there was a guy that I used to work with. He's retired now. We were in parallel jobs that had us in a a, a part of the factory that was uh, it had been a big thing at one time, but now it was used for mostly storage. And we walked out back. Uh, I was taking a smoke break, and he said, "Look, you better watch out. There's a camera up there pointed right down. Uh, you'll get yourself in trouble." And I'm going, I'm outside the building, man. It's not like I'm riding around on a propane forklift with a cigarette in my hand. And then I looked up again, looked at the camera, and I go, and it would probably help if the camera actually had a wire coming through from it instead of hanging off to the side about 3 feet away. And he goes, "What? It's right there, man. Look, it ain't even connected to nothing. It used to be, but it's not anymore." He goes, "Well, damn." And I go, "Unobservant. How many steps are there up to the house?" No. People will think that somebody's watching them and be on their best behavior. That's a waste of time. And
Remember when
it's
80
a mark of your character that you're only going to behave when somebody's watching.
remember
If
when
you
ADT was you could get the security from
uh
ADT to secure your house, and they had the little red sign with the white letters ADT on it. And I remember seeing somebody selling these at a flea market, and they were not legitimate, the authentic ones. It was something that somebody was making themselves, selling them to put in your yard as a deterrent for people to come to break into your house.
my
Yeah.
little brother, when I bought this house from him, there was an ADT sticker in the pasted up on the storm door at the front door,
Same
and
here.
he never had bought a subscription to the service. He just bought the sticker.
And
It's a
And
brilliant
somebody,
concept until the person gets caught.
well, no, the thing is, people most likely to break in are people that actually know you already. And I had to replace the front door because somebody had broken it in twice and ruined the door frame through a deadbolt and a doorknob lock. And it was somebody that knew my brother and knew that he did not have any kind of security service. So they felt absolutely free about walking up, like, not 15 yards from the road and busting the door in to come in and steal. I replaced the entire door frame and didn't bother with replacing the ADT sign whatsoever. Thought about getting a 57 Chevy and putting it up on blocks in the front yard as protective coloration. Oh, there's a gun lives here. Uh, that sort of thing.
Couch on the front porch.
Oh, well, I've done that. Refrigerator, or old refrigerator, or old washing machine on the front porch. Yeah.
Or
There's all kind of things you can do. Um, but we haven't had any break-ins Mostly because it doesn't look like we've got anything worth stealing. I mean, seriously. Uh, Most of the places I've lived, everything I owned came from Potter's House, Goodwill, or a pawn shop. It wasn't worth
And if
taking
they
out of the room.
and if they stole it, it may end back up there.
Exactly.
Particularly the pawn shop.
Exactly. Um, I haven't had a burglary since I lived in the trailer park,
Hmm.
and that was just too many people in too small of a space, basically. Um, People get to know patterns and whatnot. Out here, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Uh, People across the street, they've got cows and horses and sheep and different kinds of birds.
Conan Doyle said in one of his Sherlock Holmes novels, and I should know which one it was, but I forget, that people who live in the country were most susceptible to being robbed because it could be done and nobody would know about it for the longest time, if at all. Of course, you're talking about London or England in the 1800s, late 1800s. But
I was going to say, in rural America, if someone gets robbed in the country, you know about it in about a matter of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear? Jim Bob just got robbed up down the road here.
You remember that jet ski he had? Be on the lookout for it. It's gone.
Yeah, but about 10, 15 years ago, there was a group with a moving van that was doing quite well for themselves on north of Danville. They just pull up, bold as you be, clean out the house. People thought somebody was moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's actually a good scam, or could be a good scam at the time.
They hit about 15 houses before they got caught.
Yeah. Trouble is, out here, you run the risk of somebody actually is home, and we're far enough out in the sticks to where
it's really hard to run just 12 gauge.
Yeah, or the 30-30 or the 30-06 or whatever, and everybody is armed. I mean, most of my neighbors could probably outfit an entire army platoon just from their private collection.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd keep the really good stuff for themselves. So, yeah, it's you have to decry the portion of human nature that causes this sort of I'm going to freeload off of society, and then when it goes bad and they get what's coming to them, a lot of people that are not in the same situation, the same mindset, the same sort of lifestyle are going to look at it and go, oh no, those people shouldn't have done that. When the police are half an hour away, minutes count.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, the thing about it is, like what you said, Rich, you can't outrun a 12 gauge, but you got to make sure that they don't have the AK-47. Or if you got the AK-47, make sure they don't have the fully automatic AK-47 or SKS or whatever, because that's what it's come down to. And
if you've got enough money to buy something like that, even off the black market, you really don't need to be committing burglaries.
Another thing,
if you're a crook, if you're a crook, you have the money.
Folks,
Well, you
Because
don't
you
need
started.
Yeah. Oh, here they come back again.
You started little, and then you go. It's like somebody buying a new computer. They're not going to want to get the old ones, but the new ones. I was wondering when they were going to come in here, Dan. I'm kind of worrying about them for a while there.
Yeah,
I thought they got lost.
It also depends on their vice.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, if they're into drugs, they're pissing away so fast they're not affording for the latest and greatest and newest and best toys and stuff like that. But the other thing is, you have to be trained on the weapon you are wanting to use. I guarantee you, the average thug that would be wanting to try to break into my property and steal something from my home using a handgun in the middle of the night is not going to be able to shoot straight when you have a 400-pound naked Viking charging down the hall, screaming bloody murder, wielding a broadsword.
I wouldn't be screaming. I would, do it behind him, sneak up behind him, get the first shot in, because that's probably going to be the only shot.
No, because you want them to turn and see that, because the psychological damage they're about to have from that image.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, the cops can tell when you've shot somebody in the back. That's kind of frowned.
No, I didn't say shoot him in the back. I said sneak up behind him. You can shoot them wherever you want to and just drag them in a room that does not have an exterior door. That's how you protect your butt. Legal.
And yet they can tell when a body's been moved.
So
you're still screwed.
They don't care. And anymore, they shoot somebody outside. Donna, you guys had, what was it? Just the other night, what was it? Pixley and William Street or whatever, which I know is more East End, kind of south. What is it? Close to Bowman. Down there, the guy was out in the yard, and several of them pulled up, started shooting.
That's the hood. That's the hood.
Could it? Yeah, and it could have been a drug deal gone bad or whatever.
Castle Doctrine, it doesn't have to be inside. You do not have to run from your property.
Yeah.
But not every state does follow Castle Doctrine.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them do, but not everyone does.
Yep. The cops told me, let them in the house. If you can't let them in the house before you shoot them, at least drag them in, put a steak knife in their hand. We won't ask any damn questions. If they don't live there, if it's not a domestic assault situation, if it's somebody that you don't know, we're not going to bother asking any questions. We figure some bitch got what was coming to him. Now we might want to go ahead and run an FBI test on the rifling in your pistol to make sure it ain't been used in no other situations. But other than that, it's a burglary.
Well, I planned on doing like Rich, because I figure when they see a fat old broad standing at the top of the stairs with her axe held up yelling, "Blood for Thor!" Yeah, that's going to be something that's going to be burning in their brain forever.
Well, I have a 410 that stays next to my bed. And if both of those barrels don't get them, there's also the 38 that's sitting there. And by that time, I've created enough noise that it's woken up the wife, and she's rolling over to grab a machete. So God help you if she actually has to get out of bed at that point.
The only thing that's going to burn into their head on my end is the 45 ACP. So
See, Carl won't allow
One
me to
end
have a
and blown
gun.
out the back.
Yeah, and this is not the kind of thing that's going to get us monetized, even though I don't want to be monetized. But we're getting far
Brought to you
afield here,
tonight by
fellas.
Smith and Wesson,
Right.
and we don't mean
Cole,
Wesson Oil.
when
back-
special delivery has a good meaning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that Florence Henderson and her Smith and Wesson commercial she used to have was so great.
When my grandfather passed away before I was born, my mom and my grandmother lived out in the boonies of south of Valpo, and one of my cousins asked her, she goes, well, you still got Joe was my grandfather's name also. You still got Joe's old rifle, right? My mom goes, yeah. He goes, you know how to use it? She goes, yeah, I know how to load it, how to shoot it. He goes, well, keep it in that closet there. Keep both barrels loaded. He goes, you hear someone breaking in through the front door? He goes, you grab that rifle, put the butt up against the wall. As soon as they walk through the door, you unload both barrels. He goes, and then, before you call the cops, he goes, or after, because you live out in the middle of nowhere, walk outside, drag his ass back up the steps, because you're going to have to prove he stepped foot in the house.
I couldn't keep anything loaded while I was married, and because I had 2 daughters. Now, I did teach the oldest daughter when she was 13 how to shoot the 1963 model Mossberg bolt action 12 gauge, and she actually shot it better than the wife did. And we were having immense coyote problems back when I was living on the other side of the Wabash, there down outside of Rockville, every night for quite a while. And I was working the dreaded 7-day swing shift and could not be there in that. So went to teach the wife how to shoot it, and she was just real gun shy anyway. And that she was afraid of the kick and wasn't wanting to hold it the correct way. And I said, it's going to hurt you worse if you hold it the way you are. Mm-hmm. And the oldest daughter, who is by far the last person in the world that I thought would be interested in learning, was interested, and of course had a conversation with the better half and decided to let her try it, figuring it's going to scare the bejeebers out of her and she'll want nothing to do with it ever again. And damned if she didn't get to be a good shot.
We're not unsupervised. My cat's sitting right here.
Yeah, but
we're not unsupervised. We got Aunt Donna here.
Yeah.
Oh, we are in trouble.
Yeah,
Donna is our voice of reason tonight.
When did it go that way? Well, when Rich said,
my first fiance just bought a 30-06, and he and my brother Dale were out behind the house doing some target shooting. And I'm like, well, let me do it. And this a-hole, which is why the engagement didn't go through, said, no, you'll drop it on the ground. And I'm like, no, well, my dad taught me how to shot. I've shot a rifle. I've shot shotguns. And my brother Dale says, she can handle it. Let her do it. So I step up there. I take aim. And just before I squeeze the trigger, my fiance says something that distracts me. And I kind of look at him and I pull the butt of the rifle just about that far away from my shoulder.
Oh.
Naturally, the kick numbs my shoulder and I drop it on the ground, just like someone predicted. I was very mad. He was, my gun. My brother was literally on the ground laughing his butt off. Hi, Chris. So I walked away, and after my shoulder came back, I come back and I said, give me my gun. Shut up. Don't say one word. Took aim. Bullseye. Handed the gun back and said, that's how you do it. But I don't know which one I could have killed more, my brother or him.
I say, if your brother was on the ground laughing his head off, the least he could do was pick up the gun next to him and hand it to you.
He was absolutely no freaking help at all. But Carl will not let me have a gun. He's afraid I'll accidentally shoot him in the middle of the night. And if I did, it wouldn't be an accident. But he allows me my swords and axes.
It's that damn life insurance. That's what's screwing everything up. You could be having a good time, and
it's a pretty good size life insurance.
No, my buddy is a member of the St. Joe Sportsman Society, the one that when you're driving on 74 going by there, you see it. And it's actually, I've been there before as a guest, and I'm really thinking about becoming a member because I'd be able to get in reasonably through him. And because the other part of it is, I can't remember if it was Joe or Rich, whoever said earlier, you want to keep up, to be able to be good with the weapon, you need to continuously practice with that weapon. And
oh yeah, that's true. Is my microphone still live?
Yeah.
Okay. The computer just told me it lost communication.
Chris is here.
Oh, okay.
We had the perfect opportunity to mess with him, and you guys had to say yes.
I only said yes because I was sober. I blame it on not having enough alcohol in my blood system.
We could fix that.
Oh, there's always tomorrow night.
Oh.
Oh, and I've got another jar for tomorrow night. So
cool. We are schlepping our electronics to Wabash, Indiana, so that there will be a green room tomorrow night.
Yep.
But have I told you the story of my Viking kindred on the New York subway?
Oh, is this?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. But I believe I know this one.
Yes, I still have the sign stand.
My friend is 6'6", I think. Long blonde hair, loves dressing up for his Renaissance fairs in his Viking outfit. And since he lives in New York, he's used to the subway. So he's coming home from a Renaissance fair one night. And he's tired. You know how you sit with your kind of down, and these three guys decide they're going to try and rob him. They're standing in front of him. Give me your money, man. And he looks up at him. And he stands up and up. Rich knows the face he gets from that. And then he raises his axe and yells, "Blood for Thor!" The three men were apprehended. All the cops had to do was follow the urine trail after them.
Yeah, it's that was not the same story that I heard. The one I heard was SCA member coming back from fighter practice, wearing an overcoat, raincoat. Underneath, it's either chainmail or plate armor, depending on who's telling the tale. On the subway, somebody decides to pull a knife on him, say, "Give me your wallet." He stands up, says no. The thug tries to stab him. Knife blade breaks. SCA guy looks down and goes, "Want to try that again?" Dude goes and cowers in the corner till the cops collect him at the next stop because somebody on a cell phone called it in. Didn't even have to raise his voice. Didn't even have to undo the coat and show off the body armor. And this is armor. So,
Oh yeah.
oh Lord.
All right,
It's
friends and
probably
fiends, brothers and
apocryphal.
sisters. I've stuck it out for as long as I can. I've got to more heavily meditate about that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand completely. I'm very glad the operation seems to have gone well so far. I hope the recovery continues apace. And
so far, so good. I can't complain. Like, you've seen me lift it a few times here and there, and like I said, I can get a hell of a lot farther than I could. I mean, it's before, the surgery, I could get to about like maybe there, and now I can get to there. I'm not, showing affiliation to 1940s Germany or anything like that. I'm breaking up the scar tissue in my arm to get everything back going, but it's getting tight, and I need to more heavily medicate and get some rest.
Did you have rotator cuff or what? Which
bone spurs?
I had 2 bone spurs in my rotator cuff. One in the front of my joint here, and then one on the top of the joint here. So they were pinching, and they were also tearing the muscles and ligaments as I was moving the arm. So,
and they did just
right.
rotator cuff surgery or total replacement?
They just removed the bone spurs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they didn't even have to repair the muscle. They just had to take the bone spurs out so that I stopped tearing and stopped pinching.
Did you get to keep them?
Considering it took 3 hours for the surgery, I'm guessing it was the Dremel treatment, where basically they just went in there and
dust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They basically just ground it down. Because I if they were going to actually clip them and extract them, I wanted to keep them so that I can just glare at those fuckers. It's just every so often just be like, sorry, Dan.
Just put them on a wooden shaft and deer hunt with them. Damn it!
Oh, you're gonna make a necklace out of them,
But yeah, so
well,
And
I got
thank you for being here tonight, Rich.
Yeah.
Your presence is
Thanks for
always
having me.
enjoyed. So
it's always a pleasure to be here.
You go take care of yourself and do your therapy, but so you don't have to go to torture school.
Yep, and that's what I was doing. So just trying to get it worked out somewhat. So and like I said, it's already better than it was. It's just
take it slow. You're still healing.
One large incision here, and then 2 smaller incisions there. So there's a lot of muscle in between that has to heal and stuff like that. So it just gets tight, and I need to go be unconscious for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I will see y'all tonight.
Night.
Take care, Rich.
Night.
If you can't be good at it.
Always am.
Take it away.
I actually got to watch Laura's rotator cuff surgery video, of course, after the fact. And what
they'll put anything on HBO these days.
Oh man, I'm telling you. The Curse of Oak Island was a rerun that week, so what the hell? But it is. I mean, I never went to medical school, nor do I ever want to be a doctor or anything like that. But once you get used to a certain yuckiness of it, it's very interesting, because so much of what they were trying to do and things that what you think are feathers are totally something different. And what they originally wanted to do by putting in the screws, or well, they called them, the medical terms are anchors. Her bones were so soft in there, they couldn't do it that way. So basically, instead of fastening everything together in a Frankenstein sort of way, because the bones were so soft and the anchors would not hold, they basically just had to tighten everything down with it. So and in the meantime, also, they ground out all this arthritis that built up in there, much like they did with her thumb when she had the thumb surgery the year before. But it was so interesting. I mean, just damn interesting to watch it. Once you knew what they were doing, and of course the guy, when he's kind of narrating as he's doing it, because this is a video that's kind of protecting his butt legally at the same time we're doing it, and they drilled 2 holes in, one to put the camera in, and then the other one to do all the actual work. And much like what Rich was saying that they did with the bone spurs in his shoulder, they were doing a lot of similar things with hers as well with that. And it's amazing what they can do these days with all that. Now, will she have full total use by putting her arm behind her back when she gets an itch? No, she won't. But because of the way they tightened everything down with all the cartilage and ligaments and everything, they did all that. She'll never throw her shoulder out again in a way like she did that time when we were coming back from Chicago. And, I had to drive the rest.
I remember you telling us about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll never happen again, And so that's, you take the lesser of the 2 evils. Not saying that it's evil, but I mean,
Yeah. You take the opportunity that you've been granted. I mean, if her bones are too soft to handle the anchors and have that be successful, then you do the best you can with the rest of your remaining skill set.
And the anchors, and she's had this problem for anyone who didn't hear me, and I think maybe I just talked to you privately about this, Dan, but she's had this problem. She could not raise her arm over her head since she was about 16 years old, and dealt with the constant throwing the shoulder out and everything, and over the years. So the anchors would have allowed her to be able to do things that she had not been able to do for a long time or at all. But that part wasn't meant to be, and that. But then good Lord provided another direction with it, and this was a very, very well-known specialist in Indianapolis, and was able to do something just as wonderful as far as pain and everything else. So.
All this talk about operations is making me hurt.
Oh, you'll be talking about yours someday.
It's not so much the operation.
I've had several already, so
it's not so much the operation, just the therapy afterwards.
Mm-hmm. And it's long. It's dry.
I'm hoping I can find a therapy, a physical therapy that'll work that where I don't have to have an operation or don't have to have prescriptions to dangerous things, because I know a lot of people my age that their pain meds have become the center of their lives rather than a therapeutic option.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I spent most of my life avoiding getting hooked on dangerous drugs. I'd like to go to my grave without getting hooked on dangerous drugs. I'm having too much fun with the ones that ain't that damn dangerous.
Not yet, at least.
Mm.
Dan, have you ever thought about acupuncture? I mean, seriously. As far as something, because I know, so much of that's all temporary.
No, but I have thought about the TENS unit that Donna uses and whether or not that might be something that I should ask about when I
I'm
finally
sorry, I
get my
didn't hear
doctor's
it.
appointment. The TENS unit.
Yeah.
I thought about that might be something that I should suggest to explore. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically
Is that for
electroshock
your back,
therapy
Donna?
for your back.
My back, my knee,
Yeah.
wherever it needs it. My knee was hurting earlier, and I put it on, and it's only on for 15 minutes, and then it automatically goes off. In fact, it's got a little countdown thing. And at the end of 15 minutes, it's like, my knee doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, one of the things is to not let my knee get really painful.
Now, how long does that last after?
Well, that was about 8 o'clock tonight. And I had it on for 15 minutes and it still doesn't hurt.
And does more strenuous activity make it last less, or does that even matter?
Oh, you mean what makes my knee hurt?
No, I mean, like the therapy that you're using now, you just told me kind of how long it lasted you today. If you had a more strenuous or more active day, would it last not as long? The therapy part?
Probably not. You got to catch it when it's first starting to hurt to help that quickly and to last that long. When I had it on my back the other day, I had it last week for stupid o'clock. I had it on for the full 2 hours. And my back didn't really hurt by the end of the first hour, but it kept it from starting to hurt. And then I was fine for the rest of the night.
Yep. I'm looking for something that'll allow me to go back to driving to conventions,
Well, Dan, I'll tell you, my friend Julie has a TENS unit that's been implanted in her back. She's part Borg. And the first time, she'd have to sit up in my van. She could never sit back, and so she had to watch to the right whenever I was making a left-hand turn. And we pulled up to thing, and she sat back, and I'm looking, and we pulled out, and I'm like, do you realize what you just did? And she said, no, what? I said, you sat back, and you're sitting back in my seat. And you're not grimacing in pain. And she's like, oh, I didn't even feel it just that quickly. but hers is on almost all the time.
Now, is that something that you're able to legally drive
Oh yeah, she can
while
drive.
using that? I mean, it wouldn't
yeah.
impair. Okay.
In fact, it helps that she can drive because, when she goes over bumps on roads, she used to, no matter how slow I'd go over a railroad track, she would hurt really bad. I went over a railroad track. She says, I didn't even feel that. It was just that miraculous. But it is constant. But she drives a Jeeps. You know how.
Yeah, totally different suspension from your van.
Yeah.
Now this doesn't really have anything to do with my back. It starts just a little bit to the side of my back, and
yeah, sciatica, like I have.
well,
That's what I was just going to ask.
my wife suffers from sciatica, but it has the virtue of going away sometime.
And sometimes it doesn't.
Well, the only time that I stop hurting is when I'm up and walking around.
Mm-hmm.
When I sit down for any length of time, the pain starts and it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse.
Mm-hmm. Now, Carl massages me quite often for my sciatica and my leg. That helps a lot too.
In my thigh and my lower leg, I've been doing that myself when I go to bed at night. Just massage the whole length of wherever the nerve is.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I can't get to the seat of the pain, if you take my meaning. It's one of those things where it's embarrassing to talk about, but it's just I would be glad if it was just sciatica. I'm so afraid that it's just permanent nerve damage from the shingles,
Mm-hmm.
which there's nothing much that I know of that can touch it, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping the doctor can say, "Hey, well, rather than do that, have you tried this exercise?"
Mm-hmm.
Have you
And
been able to control the shingles lately? I haven't heard you talk about that.
hey, they flared up. They lasted for about a month, and no more blisters. Nerve pain ever after, yes, but no more blisters.
Did you ever go get your shots yet?
No, because by the time I found out what it was in full flow, and I couldn't go do it while I had them. Now I can. Trouble is trying to find a place that gives the shots that is in my insurance network.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to have to come out of my wallet, which is going to hurt more than the nerve pain, actually.
Yeah, trade one pain for another.
Isn't that just like a man? A walletectomy hurts worse than anything else.
I don't know. I see my brother in pain with the shingles, and I'd say, okay, look, I'm going to go into debt. I don't want to be in pain.
It would be nice if the shots actually stop the pain. It would be excellent if the shots prevented the return, which I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
You'll have to ask Carl, but I think when he got his shingles shot at Meyer, it didn't cost him anything.
I think I have heard him talk about that, and if I remember correctly, it was covered on his insurance. Now,
I know
there are several places I could go and get the shots right now. I mean, well, not right this minute, but any day of the week, but most of them are not in the network that my insurance will pay.
That's the
Not telling you what to do,
thing.
Dan, but
that's the one great thing about state of Illinois insurance and why we kept it. We can go anywhere. We don't have to. If I want to go see a specialist, I don't need anybody to say refer me to him. I can just go. I'm going to go see this doctor. It's a great insurance, and that's why when I went to Medicare, rolled it over to take care of the other half, the C and D.
I've got to finish the Medicare thing. I finished part of the online application, and it told me to save a number and come back. And I'm going,
what?
Yeah, what do I need to come back for? And then I realized I need to get an insurance provider for the Medicare to pay.
You're just now?
I just turned 65.
Yeah, but okay. You can sign. He's still working. He's not disabled. You can sign up for your Medicare 3 months before your 65th birthday.
I did,
and then it starts.
I did do that about 2 months and 2 weeks before my 65th birthday, and I have not finished apparently, but the website told me, okay, you're in the system now. We need this by 3 years from now. And I'm going, I do not understand what you are saying. Can you write this again in redneck so that I can understand it? You wrote it in doctor. I'm reading it in redneck. There's a mistranslation going on.
I know this is a silly thing to say, but call them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll have to call you back, but I know Medicare will pay for your shingle shots because they paid for mine. My Medicare currently is through disability, but it paid 100%. And
if I can get my work insurance to cover it before I actually leave work, then that's even better.
Yeah, I mean, call them too.
We got a place that I can get prescriptions, I know, that goes on my work insurance, and we went down there and filled prescription, never had to pay a damn thing because the insurance paid it. That's fine. It seems like an ungodly number of hoops to jump through sometimes, but I know that's just because I lack the understanding of the finer details. It's me not getting it. It's not.
Well, I'm in the same boat as you are, Dan. I mean, and it's not that. Well, maybe I am overthinking it a little bit, but I'm not on the wavelength that they are, as I'm sure you're not either. And I have to call and literally talk to somebody and say, please help me through this application, or please help me do whatever I need to do. And I needed to do that, which thank God the people there are wonderful to help you. Because even though I'm on Medicare, I had to get a Plan D for my prescriptions, and I ended up going through Humana, and those people bend over backwards to help you. I'll just speaking from personal experience, and so. And the guy gave me his cell phone number that he uses to call the people back with if I had any problems or anything. And I'm like, oh, great, thank you. Yeah, I bet you did. And I had a problem like 4 days later. And I thought, okay, I'm going to call this cell phone number. And I know it's going to go to a main number. And I'm going to have to go through all these hoops again. No, he answered. It was the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he answered. He saw it was my number. And he said, hello, Mr. Sarton. How are you doing today? What can I help you with? And I'm like, holy crap. Wow, I can die now.
We get so used to the impersonal system that when somebody actually goes the extra mile, it's surprising.
Which what used to be the way you did it back in the day. And then,
back in the day is long gone, though. That's the point. Boy, haven't we covered a lot of topics tonight? Seriously, and I got to ask Joe, where do you find 410 ammunition? There's not any to be had down here.
You live in the South.
I have one box of it, and that's it.
We cannot find any for love nor money. It's like 16 gauge no longer exists. 410 is beginning to no longer exist.
Did you ever get on the Cheaper Than Dirt website and look? Okay, and they don't have it.
I've been on Cheaper Than Dirt for decades.
Yeah, they used to be the go-to.
They used to have things that nobody else could find.
Mm-hmm.
But they've gotten a little bit more survivalist oriented in some of their online stuff now. So if I wanted MREs, that'd be great. But it's getting harder and harder to find Army surplus stuff. It's getting harder and harder to find well, I don't want to say discounted, but ammunition that you'd be able to buy normally, but may not be carried by your local sporting goods store anymore because it's not as cost effective to carry this wide variety of things. There's not that many people that are looking for it. It's one reason why I bought a couple of adapters where I can make use of something else to fire leftover ammunition for a firearm I no longer have. Thank you, Trailer Park. I really miss my Mauser. Really.
Oh, you better get on Cheaper Than Dirt again. They got it.
They got 410?
Yep. Let's see here.
I keep meaning to go to some of the sporting goods stores and try and get me a pump action. Because right now, all I've got that will use 410s are handguns.
Yeah, here's one here.
Not as much fun. Can be.
There's a revolver I want to get that uses the 410 shells
and 45 long Colt
and the 454 case hole.
Ooh, that
they even.
Now you're a big guy. You can handle it. You can handle that kick.
Just gotta know how to hold it. Oh, they even make a 410 rubber bullet of wildlife control. Let's see, the brand name is called Lightfield. That is very interesting.
Now, what I've got is, well, I've got several things, but the main one that I've got is what I tote around when I'm mowing the yard on the ride mower. It's a Texas Arms Derringer, chambered in 45 long Colt or 410 shotgun. But it has to be the 2.5 inch, not the 3-inch shotgun shell. And shoots really well. Chris Walker brought up the Judge and the rifle version, the Circuit Court Judge. Those are I'm impressed with those, but they're it does with the rifle version. It does seem to be a little bit overly complicated to switch from one to the other. I think there's something you've got to a barrel insert you've got to put in up near the sight to handle the what would be the oh, I'm not explaining this well.
Are you talking about the spiral?
Yeah,
of it.
Yeah,
I've heard of that too.
With solid bullets, the rifling in the barrel causes a twist,
right,
which makes it spin, which gives it greater stability in flight. Well, shotguns are usually smooth bores, and they don't have a twist, so there's nothing to make it more stable. But
Chris is saying the handgun version.
Yeah, that would be the Judge.
Yeah.
That would be the Judge.
Yeah.
And that's you're talking about 4 to 8 to if you I don't know if they make a 10-inch barrel, but that's not going to be a long enough barrel where it makes any difference whatsoever.
Yeah, the one that will do the 45, the 410, and the 454 is the Taurus Raging Judge. 6.5-inch barrel on it.
It's going to have some muzzle flip.
Yeah. I just can't bring myself to spend the $1,200.
This is true. This is true. Although I did spend $1,100 on a Desert Eagle 44 Magnum, but that was back in the day. I do believe they probably cost a little bit more now. But you're talking about 4 pounds empty on that thing.
Yeah, same with this Raging Judge. It's 4.5 pounds empty.
Now that does give you more control over the muzzle flip. It really does, because it is so heavy. Yeah. It's not gonna go up that much as long as you're not limp-wristed on it.
Yeah.
You can, if the Desert Eagle is anything to judge by, you can shoot it one-handed, left or right, because it's got ambidextrous controls on it. And it's not going to be like a revolver that flies back and smacks you in the forehead.
Doc Holliday had an 1865 Navy Derringer.
Yeah.
Boy, I think that was a 38 caliber,
38,
maybe.
Yep. Was it cap and ball, or was it cartridge?
I'm looking it up now because I cannot remember. Let's see. Black powder percussion.
Yeah.
And
that's probably cap and ball, yeah.
Yeah. But that Thunderer, God, that with the ivory grip and the nickel plate and all, yeah. And why do I need a car to drive when I can have that instead? You know? Joe, let's get rid of the cars and buy what we want. We can take the bus.
And when Lindsay and I got married, I was worried about her being here at the house by herself with an elderly dog who is not going to be an awful lot of use besides a early warning system to protect her from home invasion while I was at work. So we shopped around and we found her something that was built to her frame. basically. It
Mm-hmm.
it fit her hand. That was a criteria I was looking for. It didn't have to be huge, overpowered, anything. As long as she was comfortable with it, it didn't hurt, and it was sized to her hand where she had complete control over it. And it turned out to be a 6-inch barrel, 38 special. And it was rated to shoot 38 plus Ps. So, no, it was a 4-inch barrel, excuse me, not a 6-inch. Not a cowboy gun, but regular police issue sort of thing from
Right.
back in the day. And the important thing was it was comfortable for her to use.
Right.
And with a 38, basically, it's got about the same kick as a 22. Not going to have to worry about it too much. It's just loud. But she was worried about how do I learn to shoot this without using box after box after box of ammunition, and that's expensive. And I'm going, honey, no, don't worry about that. I found a 3/8 inch dowel, wooden dowel. Put it down the barrel so she had a visual mark of the bullet trajectory out of the barrel. So basically, she's got this thing with a flagpole sticking out of it. And it's single action, not double
Did it
action.
say
So
bang on the end of it?
I thought about that, but that was a little over
The Joker flag.
over the top. That was a little over top. But since this was a single action, you wouldn't be able to put it all the way down into the cylinder because then the cylinder wouldn't be able to rotate. But if you put it down to the cylinder, you can still pull the hammer back, aim, dry fire. You get used to where the point of aim is. It's the next best thing to a laser sight. Seriously.
That's what
it's
that's
just
what
a
my brother
visual
did with my
indication of
sister-in-law.
where you're actually pointing the barrel. And she practiced with that. She's damn good with it. I pity the fool that comes in the house now. Not only is the German Shepherd going to take a leg off, Lindsay's going to poke his eyes out. Honey, you have to take the stick out first.
Oh, man. No, my brother taught my sister-in-law with the 45 with the laser sight. But then, of course, he had to tell her about the compensation for the kick. And she learned that. And she said, I got it down pat. And we went down to the gun range one Saturday morning. And about the first 3 shots was nowhere near where she wanted to be. She got very frustrated. And he said, let's put the sight back on. And so we put the sight back on. She did it with the sight. Now, this is during the daytime, so it didn't aid her that much, but it gave her a little bit with the shooter's glasses that she was wearing. And with probably about 6 or 7 shots, she got it. And she knew then. It was like the episode of the Andy Griffith Show where Andy knew how much the sights were bent. And so he knew how to compensate to get that razor for Opie to give him for his birthday. And that was basically what happened with her.
Yep.
With that. And it does work,
It does. I've got a 380 here that I've never taken to the shop and had sighted in. But I know how much the sights are off, so I know how to compensate. Anybody else, they're going to be shooting the floor off to one side. And I know if I want to hit a target dead center, I have to aim for the left shoulder, basically. It's been a while since I've taken that one out and actually practiced with it. I really keep meaning to go down and have the sights drifted over so it's actually accurate. When the little laser sights came out, there was one said projects a red dot the size of a quarter at 100 yards. And I just looked at the box and I go, that'd be more useful if I could see something the size of a quarter at 100 yards.
I went over to my brother's house one time. We were getting ready to go to the gun range. We always went every Saturday morning. And I walked in the door and my brother's just pissed beyond compare. And I knew him and my sister-in-law were arguing about something and that. So I didn't say anything. I knew to stay out of it. And he'd pissed off and he says, hang on, I'm almost ready. Okay. I said, well, I'm going to go out to the car and messing around on my phone for a little bit. He came out. Long story short, we got to the gun range and he finally decided what he was pissed off about because he was still acting pissed off. And I thought, if he didn't tell me, I'm going to ask him and he can be pissed at me. Said he got pissed at my sister-in-law because she was playing with the cat. And I'm like, well, why are you pissed about that? And he says, because she was using my $85 laser sight to play with the cat. And I'm like, well, did she break it? No. And I said, well, when we leave here, we will go to Walmart. We will buy a $10 laser pointer or $7 or whatever the price of it was at the time.
They sell them in the pet aisle.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. We have the auction that I'll be going to tomorrow night. There's a lady that comes and she has 2 Yorkies. Yorkies, I'm sorry. I had to think for a second whether I was saying the right breed of dog or not. And they have the run of the whole auction house there. And not only does not anybody seem to mind, everybody is just tickled to death that they're there. And believe me, if you feed them one time, they're your friends for life. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, you'll hear them see them running up and down the aisle, and you might hear 1 or 2 bark. And because the owner is playing with the laser pointer and all that, and it right during the middle of the auction, but nobody cares. They're auction family.
There was another one I wanted to tell you about before I lost track of it. It's called a Medusa. They make them in 38 caliber and they make them in 45 caliber. But with those things, and you can interchange the cylinders and use the 38 cylinder in the 45 frame. Any 30 caliber or 38 caliber, so that includes 357, 38 supers, 38 special, the regular short round 30. You can just put one of each in all 6 chambers in the cylinder and fire it flawlessly. Same with the the 45 version. Anything 44, 45 related can fit in there, and it comes with half moon clips so that you can even use rimless, like a 45 ACP or a 380 ACP. This struck me at the time as being the perfect thing for somebody that was packing a bug out bag for the impending fall of civilization, to be able to scrounge ammo from everywhere and use whatever they found without having to tote a truckload of different weapons chambered for that particular cartridge. And evidently, it's because of its design, it's not super accurate, but it's accurate enough. So you should be able to pot a rabbit jumping across the field if you're close enough to hit it with a pistol cartridge. You should be able to take a bird out of the air with the pistol cartridge size shot shells. And this is about the same time as the first version of the Judge came out with the 45 long Colt and 44 shot shell. So these things are out there. You can get them. You just have to look around and find them, and you might have to special order them to a shop near you that has the firearms license. It makes it legal for them to buy it and sell it to you. Or you could do what Michael Z. Williamson does and just get the FFL certificate yourself, where you can buy anything from anybody at any time, and you're still compliant within the law. Now, that I'm not saying that you can buy full automatic weapons with this. You can, but each one of them has to pay the federal permit for an automatic weapon, which is, it used to be a $200 tax stamp per year per weapon. So if you had Mac 10s or Mac 11s or a full auto version of the AR-15 or the AK-47, any of that, each one of them had to be registered, and you had to pay the federal permit, or, if you don't look good in stainless steel bracelets, these things, they happen. It's just a matter of paying the right permits and filling out the right forms. But as far as semi-automatic or single shot or muzzle load or whatever, the federal firearms license is enough to get you classed as either a collector or not a reseller, but basically you can buy what you want when you want to buy it. That's not cheap. It's much cheaper to go to a shop, have them order it because they've got the FFL, and then you fill out the right forms, you buy it yourself, depending on your locality. But you've still got to fill out the form for the FBI investigation and all this other. Basically, they look up your name and see whether or not you got a record. So, it's no big deal. If you go and get, if your state offers carry permits, you can bypass that form. If you've got that concealed carry permit, or if your state's an open carry, but you get the permit anyway. They
kind of make up for the cost.
Yeah, you go in there, you put your credit card down, you put your permit down, your carry license down. You eliminate a lot of the hoops that people would normally have to jump through. Just anybody off the street. The thing with the concealed carry permit, you have to be fingerprinted. You have to be gone through the database of your local cops, and you have to go through the FBI database. And if you don't have a record, nothing to worry about. If you do have a record, you shouldn't be trying to get a concealed carry permit.
If you don't have a record, I'll sell you one.
How many copies of the White Album have I got to buy?
It's funny you should mention that, Dan, but I got bad news about my Victrola journey. I told you how well it worked the other day. Yesterday, I'm working on eBay, and I thought, I don't want the TV on in the background. I don't want the radio on. I want to play the White Album. I put it on, and Bungalow Bill sounded like John Lennon's voice was starting to speed up a little bit.
Oh. Did you wind it up too far?
Yeah, really. I wished it was that kind of Victrola.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's the suitcase kind.
Okay.
Now, I showed it to you. A week or so ago.
That's a gear drive one too, though, isn't it?
It is, yes. And how do I adjust that?
Okay. It's gear drive. Something's going on with the motor. That's the only way it can speed up and slow down. Something's going on. If it was slowing down, maybe the gears are wearing out. But if it's speeding up,
it's speeding up. Not to a great deal. I mean, it doesn't sound like you're playing 33 and a third at 45 or 78. No, it's not anywhere near 78. It's about halfway between 33 and a third and 45 when it should be 33 and a third. Well, that's the easiest way I can describe it.
If you've never noticed it before, then it's not that the gearing was wrong to start with.
No.
It sounds like the motor's starting to go too fast for some reason. So
I may give it to Carl and say, here's a present, give you something to play with.
it may just be that the brushes are wearing out on the motor.
And this was not going to be my record player of choice as far as my home stereo system. I'm saving up some eBay money after Christmas to buy a Jensen version. I made the mistake tonight of telling my 14-year-old niece, her mom told me about the good grades that she was getting. So I told her out of her 5 classes that she's taking that she gets grades on, for every A, I would give her $10 and every B, $5.
And she's up to $10,000 and you ain't got that kind of money.
Yeah, she's like, her first words out of her mouth were, "Wow, Mom, Uncle Bill's going to give me $50 for Christmas." I gave her $30 for her birthday to get there. Her and Laura are going to Chicago this weekend, and so she gets to go to her favorite store, Lush, up there to buy stuff. But anyway, I'm going to save up for the new one after Christmas. But yeah, I don't know. Yes, I bought this at the auction. Didn't pay a lot for it by any means. Less than a third of what it cost brand new, but still, it was a little heartbreaking.
Yep.
But I wanted to ask you about it before I forgot.
We got another boop. And hello, stranger.
Hello.
It's Chris Rock.
I finally got my
Hey!
at home, so that happened this week.
So you wanting to buy a judge?
Me?
And not
No.
the federal, not the federal court kind.
What about the GTO judge?
Now that one I wouldn't
that I
mind
would
having.
like. Oh yeah.
In fact, I saw a restored one that was going on auction. Man,
Oh God, that's the only GM product I'd want.
No, there's a few others, but you know that was that would have been one of the.
Well, my family grew up with Mopar no car as far as like muscle cars.
Oh yeah, no, I would
but
love
I'd
to
love.
have I would love to have a 68 to 70 Roadrunner or Barracuda with a 426 Hemi in it.
Just give me a 68 limelight green with a 383 Coyote Duster. I don't want much.
Now, if I was going to pick some, shall we say, armaments of choice, I would love to come across that AR-10.
I had one.
Those are similar to the much ballyhooed AR-15s, but they fire 308 shells.
Oh.
Well, folks, I have a meeting at 8:30, so I'm gonna bow out and try and get some sleep. So
I don't blame you, Joe.
I will see most of you later tonight. Good seeing you too, Chris.
Hope you have
see if I have as much trouble getting out of here as Joe Dog did.
Really?
Fourth time is charm.
Right?
I think what it is that it wants to send you to another thing saying, hey, try this in StreamYard or whatever. That it doesn't want to knock you right out or let you out as easily as it used to.
I don't know about that.
I'm half Donna and half me.
When I'm trying to end the show, it just lets me end and leave. That's the thing. I'm ending the show and then leaving. I'm not just leaving the show. So
it likes you better than Joe Dog.
Apparently, StreamYard likes Joe Bachman better than it does Joe Dog because it just let him leave the show and gone. Yep.
Well, Joe's probably not as how shall I say this, electronic challenged as Joe is, as Joe Dog is.
Electrons don't like Joe Dog.
I believe that.
Computers just love to fuck with Joe Dog, I swear.
Yeah. I think it's
I heard neutrons weren't so fond of him either.
Well, protons for that matter.
Yeah.
As long as he stays away from positrons, he's okay.
It reminds me of that episode of Benson where he's teaching the gang member about electrons, neutrons, and protons. The pros.
That's Venus Flytrap on WKRP.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I stand corrected. Yep. Yeah, Speaking of that, go to my artwork channel and you can see Turkeys Away there. And you can see a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving there.
People always forget about the most numerous subatomic particles, the morons. They outnumber everything.
Yeah, that's because
they don't successfully interact with anything.
Oh, they do.
What about the Curlyons or the Laryons?
Oh, those interact with a lot of things. Usually ladders, paint buckets, walls.
Yeah, I was intending on being on earlier, but I ran into an old friend and we started
Not,
talking about music, and I'm
oh,
probably
I know
worse.
how you are talking about music.
And I'm probably worse with him.
Say no more, say no more. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Yeah, I know.
Why you like hip hop, I'm not sure, Chris. You just don't seem the type.
Well,
Either that or that Zitho music that you talk about all the time. I just don't get it.
I don't either. I just
Oh.
I stick with the classics, Elvis,
Beethoven,
Aerosmith, stuff of that nature.
Bach.
Yeah, Beethoven. In fact, I was listening to, I believe it was
Curie.
Tchaikovsky a little earlier.
Ooh.
Brandenburg Concertos is my favorite from Bach.
Oh, yeah.
Don't believe I've got a favorite. I just like it all.
Yeah.
Tchaikovsky, I'm rather fond of 1812.
Yeah. 1812 overture is.
Yeah, especially if they actually have a cannon. If you don't have a cannon, a great big huge bass drum will do.
Well, if you have a whole
some classical music, folks.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Last Man Standing, brought to you by Time Life.
Yeah, you'll have the time of your life.
Let's not forget the very own United States composer, Aaron Copland, and Fanfare for the Common Man.
Oh yes, yes indeed.
Which Emerson, Lake, and Palmer did a very nice.
Yes, they do. I like the fanfare part even more than I do like the rest, but it doesn't matter whether it's an orchestra doing it or ELP. It's all good. The intro catches me really, really well. There's one of the Strauss people, not in the family. I think he was a cousin that was doing Deflator Mouse. And there was, when I grew up, there was a record in the house, had the Vienna Symphony on the air, had several Strauss waltzes and things like that on it, and the last track on the album was pretty much highlights of the little opera Deflator Mouse with a piano soloist that not only blew my mind, but probably paved the way for me to understand and appreciate modern day atonal chords. Because that's the way it was written. That's the way he played it. First time I heard it, I thought, that don't sound right. The more I listened to it, the more I was able to figure out the subtleties of it. And it did sound right. It was right. It was exactly the way it was written. It was just not
something
as melodic of a chord as what I grew up listening to and was used to. So I blame probably Johann Strauss for being able to appreciate Frank Zappa and some of the jazz bands that I've heard that were playing things that were decidedly not your run-of-the-mill chords. But it was, I would sit there with headphones on and listen to this thing over and over and over again. And at the same time, the same night, I was listening to Zeppelin 4 and uh, which one was it? Like it's written on the damn ceiling. I'm having to look up to look at the post-it notes.
Was it a Led Zeppelin album?
No, it was another artist entirely, Jethro Tull, War Child, and um, a lot of other things. But in the beginning, I had a very limited selection of records to listen to, and a lot of them were my mom and dad's.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to listen to Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey, Glenn Miller, Bill Black's orchestra, uh, things that a lot of people, if a lot of people would not recognize if named today. But
I recognize all of them.
Hey,
love them.
I guess that was the beginning of my very eclectic musical appreciation. Cab Calloway, yeah, showed up in Betty Boop cartoons and whatnot.
Yep, Minnie the Moocher. Had 78 of that.
Wild Man on the Mountain, yeah, all kinds of things. And then I wound up having a copy of Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Center of the Earth. And he had borrowed a few bars from Grigg's Hall of the Mountain King towards the end. So I had to go look that up. And oh my goodness, I just love it when a modern artist gives you classical references that you have to dive into so that you can understand their work better. And you come out going, I don't care who it is. That's great.
Now, who would have thought that I would have ever got into jazz because of Peanuts cartoons?
You know, but that was the introduction for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, it went to Dave Brubeck and you know, just on down the list. And the Beatles got me into classical music. Thank God George Martin was such an inspiration to them to even get into that. But they had the what was it, the anniversary of the Revolver album, and they had all the weirdo tracks, I call them, but they're wonderful. And they had the isolated orchestra tracks for Eleanor Rigby and that, which is wonderful. And when I bought Yellow Submarine album, yes, I love, you know, Only a Northern Song and It's All Too Much and all that stuff, but all the orchestrated stuff from the album, you know, the Pepperland and everything.
I blame that that same sort of thing, and all the many and varied influences of me being able to write the steampunk sort of stuff that I do with a rock band and an orchestra together.
Mm-hmm.
And then along comes Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds with a rock band and an orchestra and live voice actors.
I got a yellow feller in case you're wondering.
Got a what?
A yeller feller in case you're wondering.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I forgot to move my cursor and he stopped my camera a moment ago.
And Kiri, the Weather Channel, there was I think it was Spartanburg, North Carolina, TV station, after their news broadcast, as they were showing their end credits for the news show and about to sign off for the night, they would play a track from Rick Wakeman's Six Wives of Henry VIII. And I just happened to have that album, and I go, oh, I know what that is. I'm going to listen to the entire thing. No, they're playing a test pattern. Now I have to go get the album to listen to the rest of it.
WGN,
yes, at one time, after the nightly news, if there wasn't no Johnny Carson right then, TV stations went, good night, see you about 6 o'clock in the morning, and they played a test pattern and a tone that went boop all night long.
And then sometimes they would, right before they ended their broadcast, they would play High Flight or the other one, and I think there was another one that they sometimes played. Or sometimes they just play the national anthem and they would sign off.
National anthem, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
That was the end of TV for that broadcast day.
Down here they played because this is Illini country, and they played Chief Shaka Bearstep of the Nez Perce tribes doing the Lord's Prayer in sign language. They had Walt Connolly narrated it, and I believe also played an acoustic guitar in the background for it. But this, Chief Shaka Bearstep, and I can't. Donna might remind me more. I'm thinking that was from WICD sign off or WAND, one of the two. I forget which. They did that.
Never watched late night show.
Yeah.
Oh man. But the only channel that did not sign off, if you were lucky enough to get it, was WGN out of Chicago. And one thing that they did late at night, they had a show called Night Beat. And I think I'm having one of your senior moments, Dan, on the name of the guy who hosted it. And I'm wanting to say it was Marty McNeely or something. But the theme song for Night Beat was Take 5 by Dave Brubeck Quartet.
Oh,
and that's how I got into Dave Brubeck.
Song.
Oh my God! Yes.
And the stations signing off for the night and not having anything to broadcast continued into the early days of cable TV. It wasn't just broadcast. I mean, that's where it started. Broadcast stations would go, okay, we're done. See you tomorrow. Cable stations would do that up until probably the mid 70s. And then there were these either late night shows of music shows that would show very early versions of music videos like Bill was talking about, or there'd be infomercials all night long, or rather adult fare. It still wasn't adult as you would think of it nowadays, but it was
wasn't Search for Tomorrow the late night soap?
Nope.
Don't remember. No.
Nope. That was an afternoon soap.
Yeah, that was.
But in
maybe they showed a repeat of it. The station I'm thinking of.
That could be.
In the mid to late 70s, people found out that there were folks that actually worked night shift part of the week and were home and awake in the middle of the night during the week on the days off, and they would go ahead and show repeats of earlier programming, or there would be special programming, and then things evolve past um, Tonight Show or David Letterman or Late Show or things like that, and things kind of went on and kind of went on and kind of went, and you wound up with 24-hour stations.
One thing you said about late night infomercials, Dan.
Oh yeah.
God, remember when the only time you would see them was late night, and not in the middle of the day, or it drives me up the wall that at 11 p.m. Central, if you're watching Cozy TV, they all of a sudden go into the infomercials. And you think, okay, well, it's late at night. Well, they do it for an hour, and then they go back into TV programming again. And it's like, what the hell for? And I know
money.
Well, back in the day, Chris, they didn't show that stuff during the middle of the day because they couldn't afford it, because network television back then was a bigger deal.
Oh, I know they didn't.
And they couldn't afford it then. That would be like infomercials coming on in the middle when you're watching something on Disney Plus or even streaming Netflix or something.
Plus, they had programming that they didn't want to take off the air to show an advertisement because no advertisers were going to pay more money than that program would pay, and they could get more advertisements during that thing than one single one that nobody was going to pay that much money for. But I remember the old Ronco commercials for various products. Ron Papil.
But wait, how much would you pay? Yeah.
Then of course there's all the Billy Mays stuff. But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
There's that's one of the reasons that you had the late night infomercials was there were other stations that actually had programming late night. They were these 24-hour channels, and then other broadcasters that weren't geared for 24 hours go, well, we could show something. So they started trying to get income from these infomercials all night long while their regular programming was off.
Okay, here's a question for all three of you. What was the very first 24-hour channel that you remember ever watching?
TNT.
I was going to say CNN.
Well,
for me,
Ted owned them both, but
we didn't have it here yet because we were poor. But the first one I ever remember them having, or that I knew that was available, and me and my dad wished to God that we had it and could watch it, was the Weather Channel. And this was back when the Weather Channel was a 24-hour weather channel. And not playing all these reality shows through it.
Well, and another thing I remember was I used to love watching ESPN during the NCAA tournament, March Madness, and the championship tournaments for the various conferences going up to it. But I remember them shutting off at the end of the night, and they did one of the Alan Parsons Project's instrumentals. And they would shut off, and they would do the thing. It wasn't serious. It was Monogama or something like that. I can't remember. It was the one that go doon, 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 and it had the bass line going while it was doing that. And as soon as that song was over and they'd run their scrolling thing about ESPN is providing, all this stuff, basically a little legal disclaimer or whatever, and then it was gone and it wouldn't come back on till the morning.
Yep. And now we've got an endless variety of stuff, not only on cable, but all the streaming services and whatnot. And the main thing that's a benefit about streaming services is you get to pick your own damn time to watch whatever you want. If they've got
Yes.
it and you're awake at 3 a.m. and you want to watch it, you click on it, it plays.
Yeah.
It's not like some movie channel where you've got to watch a repeat
Yeah.
of the same 5 movies over and over again for 6 weeks till they get another movie. They've got this library that you can access and pick what you want when you want it. That's great. That is progress.
I
Only thing
do
I'm
love
upset
good
about-
commercials though, and Mama Gama is also from Eye in the Sky. I remember it was the same year, but yeah, I forgot about that one.
Now
But,
there used to be in Athens there was cable, had 13 channels. So that was it. 13. One of them was a very, very primitive sort of music video channel. And they would basically have dancers while the music played. And some of them got pretty psychedelic.
Hmm.
They had one video for Spirit in the Sky, which is nothing like the video you can find on YouTube right now. But it's basically a girl just dancing and the song played and it got really psychedelic. I mean, there was multiple images and there was the color streaking out this way and that way, and there was like an infinite zoom in with repetitions. It was I'm finding it very difficult to describe what
Is it
this
reminiscent of It's Almost Time for the End of the Show?
No, because that reminds me of Laugh In.
Yeah.
This was that on acid.
Okay.
It
That's
was
interesting.
wild. It was wild. And
Now, see,
they would play. They had a limited repertoire of what they would show.
Yeah.
Because this was a very small cable station.
And they probably could only afford the rights to certain songs.
Yep. And they would use the same video pretty much the same time every day. So they had X number of hours of programming and then it would repeat. But if you run home from school, you get to see your music video just before Marine Boy on the other channel or whatever.
Well, there used to be multiple outlets for music videos. You know, you had MTV, and then
this
you
was
had
way before. But yeah.
I know, and you had TBS's Night Tracks, which they would show on Fridays and Saturday nights. You had Friday Night Videos, which they would show on Friday nights, and occasionally on Saturday nights when they didn't show wrestling. And you also
Night Flight,
Showtime, that had their Take 5, which was breaks in between the advertisements for the movies that they showed, which they should play music videos. And I to this day still can't stand the Pretenders Back on the Chain Gang because they played that song so damn much.
Way too much, yeah.
And it wasn't my favorite song by them anyway. I mean, there's songs by the Pretenders I really enjoy, but I cannot stand that one.
Poor Chrissy.
I turned the station.
Well, that was just a cover song anyway.
Oh, overplay is a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of songs that I saw videos for on MTV that they were great the first 500,000 times I saw them.
Well, I will tell you another one that I almost forgot to mention. Do you remember WAGA Channel 5 back when it was a CBS affiliate? They had a music video show they would do on Friday nights that was hosted by Craig Ashwood, who was an Australian DJ from Q94. And speaking of WAGA, it's where I first remember seeing him, but Richard Belcher, the anchor and reporter, who's currently with WSB, has retired after 51 years in broadcasting.
Whoa.
And he
He's
still
seen
looks
some changes.
damn near as close as he did back in the late 80s.
Now, I used to like the Friday and Saturday night shows, late night, Don Kirshner's rock concerts, that sort of thing.
Let's not forget the Midnight Special.
Midnight Special, that was the next on my list with Wolfman Jack. Yes.
And they would actually show some videos. I mean, they were more geared to live, like how Don Kirshner was. But if you got a song by Paul McCartney and Wings, you know, tough luck on getting Paul McCartney and Wings on there to even lip sync to their song, let alone sing it.
Not even Don Kirshner had that kind of money.
No. Now, I remember McGuinn, Clark, and Hillman being on Don Kirshner singing Don't You Write Her Off Like That when they got back together. But, you know, still. But, yeah. Did you guys have Night Flight down there, Chris?
Yeah, that was USA.
Yeah, okay. So, which I know that was like early 80s on.
In fact, they started a streaming of Night Flight that I think you have to pay for now.
Well, and they have a Facebook page that you can link up and watch things on there. I've shared some of that through my artwork channel before and that, but I don't know.
USA. It might have been WWOR out of New York. But it was one of those two.
USA used to have a lot of really, really good things, and then it just went south quickly. I did all the cartoon stuff that I'm into. Remember when they had the USA Cartoon Express? And there was a little bit of everything on there that was just wonderful. And then,
the cartoons got really crummy in the early 90s. I mean, you had a few. DuckTales was all right. It wasn't great. And you had Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. But you started getting into the Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters, and they weren't as good as the movies. And just some of the
well, some were out before the
but
Ivan Reitman movies and that. And then, of course, arguably the first Ghostbusters was Larry Storch and Forrest Tucker, that Saturday morning live action version. But the Cartoon Network started out great. And then introducing some new stuff. Powderpuff Girls and
the Powerpuff Girls was funny though.
What's the
Now I didn't care for Ed, and Eddie.
It's one of those stupid things that I like it a little bit more now than what I did then. That's kind of like a Beavis and Butthead thing that is so stupid you're either going to like it or hate it. But Dexter's Laboratory was genius. I loved that. But they went to the wayside, and then they said, well, wait a minute, they were afraid of losing their audience. And so that's how Boomerang got created, to carry all the classic stuff over there. Well, then of course, that went down the hellhole. And
because people didn't want to pay for it because they wanted them to pay for it.
Well, Boomerang, we never had to pay for it. I mean, it was on cable, but we had it through ours. And I don't know if Donna ever watched that kind of stuff or whatever back in the day, but I remember it being on regular cable. It was just on a different channel than Cartoon Network. But yeah, if you wanted to watch the old stuff, you went to Boomerang. Well, now both Cartoon Network and Boomerang is just full of crap. And
didn't I see where Cartoon Network is no longer?
I don't know. They had talked about
not having watched it. I in probably 2 years, I wouldn't be surprised.
There was talk of shutting down some of the Turner networks, because Time Warner purchased the rights to them when they bought him out or merged or whatever, and he was no longer in direct control of them. There is a huge Turner broadcasting facility next to William Street. If you look at the end of the credits of a lot of the cartoons, it says William Street at the end of it.
Right.
So there was talk of disbanding some of the networks and, just basically letting them die. I don't know if Cartoon Channel was one of those or what, but it's a possibility.
The initial merger back in the day, Chris, was because of Hanoi Jane. Remember, because she was the other half at the time. And she was basically the puppet master to that when he was getting old and couldn't. And there was a lot of issues going on, that some deals with the wrestling wasn't going to chime out to be very good. And of course it changed eventually anyway, but
well, this happened before.
I'm very glad that you remember that particular identification, Bill, because
his brain was
grew up in that period, that is a term that should never be forgotten.
He was still in charge of his wits. He was looking to become a billionaire, and that move allowed him to do that because he still did all the purchasing of the ranches and growing the bisons and the beef and stuff that wasn't necessarily stuff that was up her alley.
But he lost creative control of it, though. After
that's what happened with the merger, because that's what he had to give up for the money.
Yeah, money is everything.
There was a really good PBS documentary about it, and it's jaw dropping. It really is, and I like the older. I loved watching that Saturday night wrestling. Along with all the other Turner programs that always started at 5 minutes after the hour. That was ingenious. That was Ted Turner. That was
Turner
the genius of Ted Turner. And it worked.
We're a little past time.
We've run an extra 30 minutes. Which I do not begrudge, because we have covered a huge variety of things, and that is absolutely wonderful, and that's exactly what I want to have happen here. Now, we have two choices. I can play the bedtime story, or we can keep talking. If y'all want to keep talking, we can keep talking, because
it's up to you guys.
We can go on for I think maybe 6 hours before YouTube will go, this is getting a little long. I am not ready to go to bed yet myself. And if hey, I'm game if y'all are. So if you're not ready to tap out, let's just keep on rolling. I did want to do a minor subject change, because Bill reminded me of something else. When I was younger and I had a designated bedtime, I would listen to late night AM radio while I tried to get to sleep, and my brain would not shut off. There was a program on, it was either WGN or The one from Terre Haute. Can't remember the call sign.
WTHI.
I'm not
Are you
sure.
You're talking about radio or TV?
Radio.
Oh, radio. Okay.
Radio.
Um,
But after dark, those two radio stations would crank the power up, and you could hear them on AM radio flawlessly in Georgia. I mean, seriously, when our local radio stations go, "Hey, we're dialing it back and going to bed. Thank you very much, folks. Good night," and they turn over to these other two. I mean, it's like the legendary X from Mexico that Wolfman Jack used to work for. Overpowered out the wazoo. You could hear them on Mars in real time. Seriously, and
Art Bell.
they had a show. I don't remember which one it was. They had a show called the King Biscuit Flour Hour.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And they would play live and not live, but uncut recordings of lots and lots and lots of different bands in concert. The concerts were live, but they were recordings of the concerts. That's where I first got to hear a complete concert by Rick Wakeman, and I discovered not only was he a great keyboard player, he had a sense of humor that just wouldn't quit. But Marshall Tucker Band, and actually got to hear Allman Brothers, but they had the band members talking in between.
I think I heard that one.
And then
when Dwayne was still alive.
Well, the recording was from then, but he had already passed away by the time I heard it. But this was one of those things. I had a little bitty, a credit card size AM radio, and it used a AA battery or something like that, maybe 2 AA batteries. I hooked it up to an almost dead 6-volt flashlight battery. I mean, almost dead, but not quite. And I took an earphone, one of the little one ear, plug it in the side of the radio. That's what you had. Cut the wires, wired it through a tone arm of a record player. One of the suitcase type record players, Bill.
I'll send this one to you then.
So I had a very, very primitive AM stereo that had absolutely fantastic ability to soak in signals and last all night long. So I'd sit there and I'd tune the little radio, and then I'd set it down and I'd turn on the record player, but the disc wouldn't spin, and kind of adjust the tone a little bit this way or that way, and all of a sudden my bedroom is full of the most amazing sounds I had ever heard in my life, and I had rigged it all up. This was before anybody ever heard of a boom box. Nothing had ever been invented. A portable radio was something about the size of a shoebox. And,
we heard Dr. Demento, or I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Dr. Demento. There was somebody
that was
did
the
a
other
Dr.
one.
Demento show. Yeah, and it was the first time I'd ever heard the entire thing.
Wasn't that on Sunday night? Was that on Sundays?
I don't know.
Okay, so
these stations would play whatever they want, whenever they wanted, but it was after 10 p.m.
So we heard King Biscuit Flour Hour here on WPGU in Champaign, which was at the time was the college radio station. Wasn't that right, Donna? It's not
never
no
heard
longer
of that one. Sorry.
Okay, well the station is still in existence, but I think it's a crappy top 40 now. And but back in the day, it was college radio, and you would hear all the album cuts and everything that the WKIO that I listen to now on 107.9 plays. But they played the King Biscuit Flower Hour every Saturday night, and I think here it started either at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. But then on Sunday nights, it was Dr. Demento, and the one I always listened to, it was two guys, and I can't think of their names. But they had the little routine about the guys panning for gold and the rattlesnake. And they always said, God, I couldn't live like that through the whole routine.
Well, no, these were AM radio stations in the mid 70s. They were late night. They were one was out of Chicago, the other was out of Terre Haute, and both of them seemed to just crank the transmitter power up to the max. I mean, they went to 11. So if one didn't have anything you were interested in, you could go over to the other one. But it's like the only thing that came in late at night. And by late at night, at this point in time, was after 10 p.m., going on towards midnight. And if I could manage to still be awake and aware after midnight, it sure wasn't a school night, so it had to be the weekend. So
now they were 50,000 watt stations, and they still are to this day. But I think the fact that because you couldn't pick it up until after a certain time at night, that's, you know, it kind of operated the way you were getting skip basically.
No,
you were getting
these were regular they did this every day.
Right.
They said
Right.
they were cranking the power up so they could reach further. So evidently they weren't going the full 50,000 in the daytime and then cranked it up at night, or they had a little booster they'd kick in at night.
Well, theoretically, they wouldn't need it, the extra at night. They would need it more during the day, because that's when you're think about, you mentioned your CB antenna. So think about the same mentality.
Yep.
You know, you didn't get out quite as far on the CB radio during the day as you did during the night, because you had all that traffic because of the daylight and everything else associated with that.
The thing about skip, you can't count on it all the time. This I could count on all the time. I don't know. Maybe it was just that the other radio stations are all shutting down, and there were probably several country music stations in my area that would shut down around this same time instead of playing all night. So finally I was able to get their signal loud and clear.
Well, I believe you, because in Cherokee we got WLS out of Chicago, but only after a certain time at night.
Mm-hmm.
But it was every night. I mean, I listened to John Record's Landecker Boogie Check way before I ever moved up here. Everybody like, how did you know about that? Well, we listened to it in Cherokee. No, you couldn't, but you could.
It's amazing the things that you can do if you're working from a level of absolute ignorance without knowing that it can't be done. So you find out a way to do it any damn way. Lear, the guy that did not only Learjets but the radios, figured out how to build little compact radios, because he ignored everybody saying, well, you can't do that because you can only shrink the components this small. And he went ahead and shrunk the components even smaller, and it still worked. So he made a few $1 billion. Seriously, if you
Yeah.
don't
Well,
if you don't know that something is impossible and you try it and it works, does that make you lucky, or does that make
Hmm.
everybody that says it don't work short-sighted?
I just like to think they don't know it yet. Would you believe that King Biscuit flour? I knew that they're no longer around, but they had been around in somewhat recent years. They actually ran up through Christmas Day of 2005. So they,
Oh,
49 years they ran that show.
Oh Lord,
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Very.
And just think of all the stuff that they introduced people to that had never been able to listen
Experience
to it
it.
before.
I had that T-shirt. God.
I don't remember if it might have been one of the other ones besides, the midnight special that we mentioned earlier. But I remember one time it was CBS station in Chattanooga, WDEF Channel 12, and it happened to be on a night where I was able to stay up late and watch TV. They had a concert with Hart in Kansas that they were showing.
Ooh.
And this was maybe 79, 80. And I kept hoping I would find a replay of that, and I never could find it.
God world, Dan.
You got a problem with that? Beats the hell out of all the alternatives, don't it?
It just, yeah, sometimes it does. It just, when Chris said I was allowed to stay up late and he said 79 or 80, and I'm like, oh, geez. I'm just kidding. No, my niece reminds me.
Hey, I was on swing shift by then, so.
I was graduating high school that year, well, 80, but would have been in the Marines.
Well, I graduated high school in 75.
But I am not a spring chicken.
74.
Long as you ain't got egg on your face with it, you're doing fine.
You graduated in 74, Donna?
Yep.
Donna's just about, 6 months older than I am?
Donna, I really thought you were closer to my age.
When was your birthday, Dan?
November.
Uh-huh. Mine is next Monday, 28th.
Oh.
So you're closer to a year older than I am.
I'll be 66, yes.
Wow.
Damn surprised I made it this far.
Ain't we all? I didn't expect to live this long.
I'm surprised Carl made it to his.
with all that
you didn't kill him.
With all that duck and cover stuff in school, I figured World War III would have happened before I graduated high school. No, the Vietnam War ended before I graduated high school. So
yeah.
Same here.
I think of that quote from Mickey Mantle. If I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have took better care of myself.
Save more money. Really. When you live each day like the world's going to end, you expect the world to end, so there's no point in preparing for a future that ain't going to be, and the future still hits you in the face, you go, maybe I should have listened to what my mother said. What'd your mother say? I don't know. I didn't listen. Yeah, Douglas Adams. I only steal from the best. Oh heavens.
Well,
I'm just fearless anymore. You know,
Mm.
I'm not going to say I've seen it all, because then I'm liable to see something else. But
I'm not going to touch that line, Bill. I am definitely not going. Not even
say it,
in the
Dan.
green,
Say it.
Not even in the green room am I going to touch that line.
Well,
No.
it's late night. You guys ahead. King Biscuit flower hour's over, so go ahead.
It'll never be that late at night. Lord have mercy.
That show only lasted, that I remember, wasn't it just an hour-long show?
It said it was an hour, but it showed it played 2-hour concerts. Or
all in the same night, or did it play like part one of it on one week and part two the next week?
All in the same night. That's the way I remember it. That doesn't mean that's the way it was.
I just can't remember. Hudson and Landry is the comedy team I was trying to think about that I heard on Dr. Demento all the time. And I'll have to look up that routine that it was they played a couple of the guys that would always go out looking for gold. Back in the day.
If you're ever looking for something,
I'll tell you in a minute.
Family-friendly comedy to watch that's just a little bit on the edge, or was on the edge at the time. There are things on YouTube. The Two Ronnies and Markham and Wise. Now, my wife introduced me to these because they are British, and they were going on at the same time that Monty Python was getting started, and the Goonies and things like that, and they caught on. They kept going for a long, long time. This funny stuff. Seriously, some of this stuff I laughed until my sides hurt, because they were basically variety shows with very, very good comedy routines.
I bought a 3 CD collection of the old Amos and Andy radio broadcast.
I got to watch those when I was a kid. There was an Amos and Andy live
TV
action.
show.
Yeah. And I don't know why that particular area of East Tennessee was playing it, but it was.
That I know.
It was kind of
there we go.
It was entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun as all get out, but it was outside the paradigm I was used to.
Yeah.
It gave me an appreciation for a point of view that I was not experienced with. It was not something I encountered in my day-to-day life.
The Open Air Taxi Cab was the name of the taxi cab company. And to this day, there's a tin litho toy of the Amos and Andy Open Air Taxi Cab that has one or both of them in there. And if you have just a beat up, crappy, rusty version of that tin litho toy, you can get 3 digits out of it on any platform. So Hudson and Landry, it's the Prospectors, and it's called I Couldn't Live Like That, and I just went ahead and posted the YouTube in Stupid O'Clock. Listen sometime, and it's very family friendly, but it's hilarious to hear. It's the poetic timing of them is much like Morecambe and Wise and the Two Ronnies and that you mentioned.
That's the thing. these guys had the timing.
Now, one thing, okay, I love Benny Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I say this. I have to disclose this first. I love Benny Hill. Me and my dad watched it in the 70s religiously. Now, and I still watch it a little bit if I can't get to sleep after I get off of stupid o'clock on Saturday nights, just till I fall asleep, because I do have early Sundays. But the one thing that doesn't come through after all these years that seem a little dated or whatever is when they do the musical part, not his comedy musical stuff. That's still outrageous. But like when they're doing the Ladybirds, or just kind of doing whatever, You Light Up My Life or Feelings, or whatever song that was popular at the time when that episode was out. Or what was it? Hills Angels was the dance group of his.
Not sure. Yep, that sounds right. Yeah.
They were just basically doing, and I thought of this earlier when you were talking about that show that was more of a local show, and it was just a person doing some psychedelic dance to whatever song. And some of that, which back in the day I thought, and maybe because I liked the song better back then, or that it was new or something, or that I was watching that just to get to the next Benny Hill routine, whatever. But now it doesn't translate quite as well with me, or it's not that I don't like it. It just seems a little more dated, I guess, is what I want to say.
Yeah. There's well, I don't want to call it go-go dancing, but that's kind of what they were doing.
Well, it was kind of almost like what flash dance was in the 80s. You know, it's what do they call it, where you're
better choreography. And some of that stuff
was famous for birthdays. Christina Applegate was born on this day in history. Also, a couple other minor Star Trek actors and actresses. One that wasn't quite so minor was Jeffrey Hunter, who played Christopher Pike on the initial Star Trek.
He was very known for playing Jesus Christ in Jesus of Nazareth, I believe, prior to that.
Also, Noelle Neal, who played Lois Lane.
Lois Lane, yes, indeed.
Yep.
She was born on this day in 1920. And somebody I can relate to is John Larroquette, who was born on this day in 1947, since it's now the 25th.
Does it say where he was born?
Let's see.
It was a stable somewhere. Mary and Joseph had been turned away from the inn.
No, but his first role was the narrator in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, wow. Some always told me that he was from like Natchez or New Orleans or somewhere. Yeah, like Cajun.
Yeah,
well, you know, he had that French name.
Louisiana, but I can't remember exactly where.
Yeah, at one time I think
you mentioned Noel.
A stand-up where he's calling himself Johnny LaRocket.
Oh,
and
wasn't he also in National Lampoon's Animal House?
Don't.
Or am I thinking of someone else?
But he was in Stripes.
Oh, he was Stripes. That's it.
Yeah. He was in Stripes. I remember him.
Baba Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Love that.
He was in the Hallmark Channel series McBride. He played Mike McBride. And of course, he was Dan Fielding on Night Court.
And will be again.
He was also in Boston Legal.
Yeah.
And,
God, I love that show.
He was also in Blind Date, Meatballs Part 2, Summer Rental, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, JFK, and Richie Rich. And not only there was 2 more famous celebrities born on this day. Ricardo Montalban, who was born in 1920. And R&B, soul, and gospel singer Percy Sledge was born on this day.
Ooh, When a Man Loves a Woman.
No, excuse me, 1914.
He's got a lot.
Day of death.
You talked about Noel Neal a little while ago. I've been watching Alfred Hitchcock at night when I can't sleep, and it seemed like the other Lois Lane, Phyllis Thaxter, she's been in a lot of the Alfred Hitchcock Hour shows, and wonderful in it. And she gets very little credit for being a Lois Lane, but she did play a very good one.
Yeah. And for some strange reason, people found it hard to tell them apart.
They had similar looks, and a lot of people thought that Phyllis Thaxter was the first one and Noel Neal was a replacement. And they said, no, actually, Noel Neal was first and decided not to come back to do the other serial. And then that's when they asked Phyllis Thaxter. And then Noel Neal had one of those, oh God, I could have had a V8 moments and decided to come back.
Yeah.
And even though Phyllis Thaxter had a contract, she graciously backed out of it to let Noel Neal back in. And that carried her through the serials and then, of course, the TV series.
Yeah, well, that was a classy act on her part. Not everybody.
Oh, yes.
Yep. Are you really familiar? I mean, is everybody familiar with the 2 Superman serials? I mean, I know I'm intimately familiar with them. I guess Bill would. I'm not sure about Chris and Donna because it might not be their cup of tea.
I'm not. I've seen an episode or 2 or parts of episodes, but as far as being able to actually watch them all and, all that stuff, no.
That might be one of the things that I can contribute to Hallowcon because I've got both of those things that could wind up being in the video room if somebody wants it. I mean, they are Republic serials. There's several hours each.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, is Kirk Allen as Superman? I mean, seriously, that needs to be part of everybody's education right there.
Yeah.
Yep. The very first Superman.
Is the one I remember. I don't believe
George, as wonderful as he was not the first.
Yep,
and
Kirk.
The serials did have all the flying scenes done by the Fleischer Brothers Animation Studios. This was after the first Superman cartoons that were done for movie theaters, basically. And they had all this stuff, and they could make Superman fly in black and white. The flying sequences being animated, and the takeoff and landing sequences being live action were blended fairly well. I mean, they weren't unnoticeable, the shift between the two, but if you're into the story, if you're into the video, it works very, very, very well. Now here I am. We're almost at 3 hours here. Here I am going on about stuff that Old Republic cereals that just excite me to no end.
Ah,
Uh,
I just okay.
And
Nobody
still,
could pull off the Superman curl like Kirk Allen. And the thing about it is, that was his natural curl in real life. So this is him, not as Clark Kent, but this is him as him.
is him, yeah.
And he had that trademark curl back in the day. I loved it.
Well,
New Jersey boy.
We've given it 3 hours. I think it's about time we pulled the plug, because
I will say George Reeves' smile reminded me of Lyle Wagner's in Wonder Woman.
Yes, I knew you were going there.
He could do the wink. Well, Lois, maybe Lois.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that in. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Look. I'm very glad you're here tonight. I'm very glad that we went over for an hour, because we covered a lot of territory, and we've done so many topics, and it's been a marvelous experience. And hey, it's a holiday. We can do 3 hours. Who cares? Only Carl's going to watch it in the replay, and he'll be going, "Is this ever going to end?"
He'll be ready for the green room for sure tomorrow night.
He's going to go out and buy 2 bottles of Kraken for this one.
Take us home, Daniel. Take us home.
Good night, everybody, and all the folks that are still watching live. Thank you very much for sticking it out. And Stupid O'Clock and Last Man Standing will be on Saturday
at the regularly scheduled times.
Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. And anybody that's going to be in the green room, better get you some sleep.
If the creek rises, I have a rowboat.
I can sleep in the car on the way to Wabash.
Y'all have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
See you later, everybody.
Adios, amigos.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Transmission overload. System will shut down. Transmission overload. System will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.
Time to do some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Hope I get away with it. Oh, da-doo-dah.